this is not clickbait. I really do have a technique for you which can stop your monkey mind like that immediately. And it's so simple that when you figure out how to do this and how to apply for yourself, you can do it anytime you'd like. But there are some limitations. And before we get into discussing how to actually do that technique, we need to understand why we put so much emphasis on quieting the mind and why we think it's so important with our thoughts and the identification that goes on there, because that will make it easier for you to then let go of your thoughts and ultimately stop your thoughts and understand how that works. So most of us have a mind that just goes on chattering the whole time, and there's all these thoughts and validations, and he thinks that, oh, I hear that sound over there, I want to like it, dislike it, and I see that thing over there, I want that or I don't want it. And we tend to identify with what our thoughts tell us, and we think that I am within those thoughts. But if you look more into what thoughts actually are or how they come up, you'll see that, especially when you get into deep states of meditation, you see that you're sitting all still, you're meditating, and all of a sudden something comes up, and it's a thought. It can come from a completely blank slate, even though there's no thought, no feeling or emotion, anything, and all of a sudden a thought pops up. So the more that we look at our thoughts, we'll realize that, wait a minute, the thoughts are not really me thinking my thoughts. The thoughts just kind of come by themselves. And this is a common misconception, because we can actually make it feel like we think our thoughts when we kind of, oh, I'm thinking about this, and we kind of texting out in our mind. Sure, you're making those thoughts happen. But thought processes and the way they occur, generally speaking, are just happening by themselves rather spontaneously. In Buddhism, they actually talk about thoughts as the sixth sense. So you have the taste, hearing, smell, touch. What did I miss? Whatever. And then you have the sixth sense, which is just like you would do this to your arm and you feel me tapping here. If you put stimuli onto your mind is going to spit out thoughts. So, but what this kind of helps us with is, because if you sit and watch let's say the news, when you're watching the news, you'll see that, oh, I look at all these horrible things happening, because news are always horrible. There's rarely any good news. And then afterwards, your mind is going to be spitting out things like that, especially if you do it before you go to bed. It'll keep spitting out thoughts in that direction. So one of the easiest way to calm down the mind is to actually be aware of what kind of input you give the mind. Do you watch horror movies? Do you read... sometimes I watch those on YouTube, the unsolved crime stuff, and it's just absolutely terrible stuff. Like, why suscept yourself to watching things like that? It really doesn't help you have a calmer mind or to live a happier life. So what we put into our mind really does make a difference on how we have our thoughts, what kind of thoughts we have. But that is not the only thing that happens here. It's not just that you put stimuli onto your mind and it comes out and that is who I am. No, there's another aspect to it also, which has to do with our belief that we are our thoughts. And this is something that in the beginning seems kind of obvious. I am my thoughts. I think, therefore I am. It seems really clear that my thoughts are me and they're coming from me. And there's lots of traditions where they try to disassociate from their thoughts, or try to make themselves believe that, oh, I am not my thoughts. In fact, I am something else, or it's just happening. And my personal belief, or my experience also, by the way, if you're new to the channel, my name is Martin, and I lived as a Buddhist monk for 6 years. I spent most of that time in intensive meditation retreats where we meditated 10, 15 hours per day, like for months at a time. And it gets really clear when you look at it that way, how the thoughts come up and how we tend to identify with it. But when you really look at it, there is no self there. And if you try to push that down or try to convince yourself like, oh, this is not actually me, it's just happening, or someone else, you're missing the point, because that will just be a new belief that you have. What you really need to do is observe this happening. If you can just observe your thoughts without having a lot of identification, or not what do you call it? Not expressing them, but not repressing them either. They're just thoughts. Just let them be. Don't try to convince yourself that there's something other, but just watch it and see what they are, and you will see. Eventually, you will see how thoughts are just coming up by themselves. But it's not always that easy. So we need to have some kind of technique to make this happen and to make that work. And one of the ways you can do this is meditation. But to really see how thoughts can stop and to see that, oh, wait a minute, there's something happening here. To see that you are not under the control of your thoughts. In fact, your thoughts are under your control in many ways. A good thing to do is to do this technique that we're going to do in just a little while, because that will help you see that, oh, okay, the thoughts can kind of stop and I'm still here. Like there's still a feeling of me here. It will feel different and it will feel calmer, very likely, but it will feel strange at first if you're not used to experiencing a calm mind. I want to, before we do that, I have to say something that will make a lot of people think, oh, okay, well, he's just full of BS. Like, obviously, that's not the way it is. But I want to emphasize two things. First of all, you cannot stop your thoughts permanently. You just cannot stop your thoughts permanently. That just doesn't happen. I have never heard of anyone who does this. You can calm the thoughts down so they kind of feel like they're in the background, but you still have thoughts. Exception would be there are some people who claim that they're born without thoughts. I don't know if that's what they say. They still have suffering. They still have problems. They still have moods. They go up and down. So what that tells us, part of that is that even though if you could stop your thoughts, that doesn't solve your problem. Because the reason you want to stop your thoughts is because you feel bad. You feel like you're suffering. You feel like you're being constantly being bombarded by this thing that keeps talking negatively or whatever is happening in your mind. So we can't permanently stop our thoughts. And secondly, the thing that is really important to understand is that it's not important. It really is not the thoughts that's the problem. The thoughts are just kind of ethereal things that don't have any weight of their own. The only weight a thought has is the weight that you give it. So a thought is just a thought until you give it some kind of weight or some kind of resistance or craving for that thought. As an example, I sometimes say that when I was a teenager, if I would have woken up in the morning and my hair was all over the place, I would say, oh my God, my hair is just completely messed up. I can't go to school today. I got to stay home. And then I try to fix it. I take another shower. I do everything I could to make it look good. If I have that exact same thought today, exactly the same thought, oh, my hair looks like absolutely crap. It actually does look a little bit like crap right now. If I have that now when I'm 47, oh, it's raining a lot outside. I hope you can still hear me. If I have that same thought now, it doesn't bother me at all. It's just a thought. I don't care if my hair doesn't look like that. So it's the same thought, but how I relate to that thought has changed. So, in other words, the problem is not the thoughts. The problem is what I call the distortion, the pressure, or the friction that you have with your thoughts. But that's easy to say because unless you've actually experienced this yourself, that's just a belief. So you need to see this. And as we grow older, we kind of naturally do this. We kind of naturally let go of things. Most of us. There are some who just bite into it even harder and get even more attached to this idea that the world needs to be a specific way for them to enjoy it, and then the thoughts and blah, blah, blah. So, enough talking. We're going to do the technique, and it is super simple. So I want you to just sit down for a second and close your eyes and just start focusing on your breath. Just start observing how you're breathing in and you're breathing out. Feel that little space that comes before you breathe in and out. And a third time, breathing in and breathing out. And being aware of your breath happening, I'm going to ask you a question. And I don't want you to come up with an answer. I just want you to look for the answer. So the question is, what is my next thought? Stop. Just wait and see what comes up. Stop and ask yourself, what is my next thought? Stop. If you're still not having any thoughts, by all means, pause the video and keep on having no thoughts until they start up again. This is such a simple technique, and it really does work. For some people, it takes a few tries before they can see it. It might be that you have too much going on, so you actually cannot. But the question, what is my next thought, will make you stop, widen your awareness, which is very important, and have a wide awareness looking, where is my next thought going to come from? And that space that you create, that is rather free from this sense of distortion or pressure towards the outside world. And the thoughts tend to stop. So you're just being aware, open to whatever you're experiencing right in this moment. One of the things that makes it easier to do this technique is to have some kind of meditation technique. But most people make it more complicated than it need to be. So to recommend you the best way to make this technique even more effective, I made a video here where I go into detail about why why breathing meditation is by far the easiest and best meditation techniques that I have run into. And that's after tens of thousands of hours of meditation. This is the easiest and most effective technique you will ever find, especially if you want to change how you relate to the world outside of you, to enjoy life more, not to escape from this life and go somewhere else, but actually enjoy your life and be happy here, right now.